What would you do if your best friend asked you to skip school for just one night? For these three girls, that one night changed everything. They thought they were just having fun, chasing dreams of a glamorous life. But the nightclub doors they walked through led them down a dark path they never imagined. Their parents' warnings echoed in their minds too late. But before we dive into their tragic story, if you believe in the power of education and want to see how bad decisions can change lives forever, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You don't want to miss what happens next. Now, let's begin. In the heart of Lagos City, within the walls of St. Mary High School, lived three young girls, Adaeze, Kioma, and Ngozi. All three were 17 years old and filled with dreams. But their dreams were very different from each other. Adaeze was her family's pride. Her father was a retired teacher who wanted his daughter to become a doctor. Every morning, he would check Adaeze's bag and ask if she had studied her lessons. When Adaeze saw the hope in her father's eyes, she would bow her head and say, "Yes, father, I'm studying." But inside her, there was another voice. That voice whispered to her about a different life. Kioma was her family's only daughter. Her mother sold fish at Victoria Market to pay for her education. Every day she woke up before sunrise, cleaned the fish, and worked until darkness fell. Whenever Kioma looked at her mother's hands, her heart ached. Those hands were rough, cracked, and smelled of fish. Kioma had promised her mother, "Mother, I will become rich and free you from this market." But through which path? She didn't know the answer to that question yet. Ngozi was different. She was the youngest of 6 siblings. Her family barely cared about her. Her brothers had already dropped out of school, and her sister had gotten pregnant at 16. For Ngozi, school was an escape from home. But being with her friends, being part of them, mattered more. One Friday afternoon, while sitting in the schoolyard, Adaeze saw something on her phone. A girl had posted on Instagram. In the photo were expensive dresses, sparkling jewelry, and luxury cars. The girl's profile description read, "Lagos Queen, Nightlife Star." Adaeze showed the screen to her friends. "Look, this girl is our age. But look at her life." Kioma took the phone and looked at the photos. Her eyes lit up. "This girl goes to Royale Club every night. She meets rich men and they give her everything." Ngozi shrugged. "What does this have to do with us?" "We're poor girls." But Kioma had a plan forming in her mind. A few days later, she presented them with an offer. "Girls, let's go to Royale Club this Friday night. Just once, just to see what kind of place it is." Adaeze shook her head. "My father will kill me. He always says those clubs are bad places." Kioma laughed. "Your father doesn't need to know. We'll tell our families we're doing a study group. What could happen in one night?" Ngozi listened silently. Then she spoke up. "I'm in. Nobody at home will notice anyway." Adaeze wasn't convinced, but she didn't want to disappoint her friends. Maybe Kioma was right. What could happen in one night? That Friday evening, the 3 girls lied to their families. Adaeze told her father she was studying with friends. Kioma sent a message that she'd be home late while her mother was selling fish at the market, exhausted. Ngozi didn't inform anyone because nobody was waiting for her. At 8 in the evening, they met in front of Royale Club. The security guard at the door looked them up and down. "Girls, this isn't your place. Go home." But Kioma was prepared. She pulled out a fake ID from her wallet. The security guard didn't believe it, but then Kioma gave him some money. The man rolled his eyes and let them in. Inside the club was another world. The music was so loud it deafened their ears. Lights spun, colors changed. Everywhere well-dressed people were dancing. Expensive champagnes lined the bar. In the VIP section in the corner sat wealthy-looking men. Ngozi looked around. "This place is incredible." Adai's felt uncomfortable. When she looked at the women around her, she shuddered. There was an emptiness in their eyes, as if they had no souls. They danced for a while. Then someone touched Kioma's shoulder. When she turned around, a middle-aged man in a suit stood there. The man wore a thick gold ring on his finger, an expensive necklace around his neck. The man smiled. "I haven't seen you before." "Are you new?" Kioma nodded. She danced with the man. Then he bought her a drink. Kioma drank it. It tasted strange, but she kept drinking. That night, the lives of the three girls began to change. But they weren't aware of it yet. The following week, Kioma came to school with a new phone. Adaise was surprised. "Where did you get that phone?" Kioma smiled. "The man at the club gave it to me. His name is Emeka. He's very rich and very generous." Adaise felt uncomfortable. "What did he want in return?" Kioma shrugged. "Nothing. He just wants to see me again." But Adaise knew. Nothing was given for free, especially in Lagos. Weeks passed. Kioma now went to the club every Friday night, sometimes on Saturdays too. Ngozi joined her, but Adaise resisted. She didn't want to go again. "Girls, this is wrong," Adaise said one day. "You're neglecting school." "Exams are coming." Kioma laughed. "Exams? Adaise, open your eyes. I'm making more money in 1 week than my mother makes in a month. What will school give me?" Adaise remained silent. She felt she was losing her friend. A month later, Kioma completely dropped out of school. Ngozi followed her. Both were now working full-time at the club. They weren't waitresses. They weren't dancers. Their role was more complex. They entertained wealthy men, spent time with them, and received money in return. Kioma was tired of lying to her mother. One day she went home and told the truth. Her mother, Victoria, started crying. "My daughter, why do I work in that market every day?" "So you can become a doctor. So you can become a teacher. But you're selling yourself." Kioma looked coldly. "I'm not selling myself, Mother. I'm surviving. What did you give me? Fish-smelling hands? An exhausted body? I want a different life." Victoria slapped her daughter's face. Kioma didn't cry. She just grabbed her bag and left the house. She never returned. For Ngozi, the situation was easier. Her family didn't care. Even her brother told her, "At least you're making money." There was no shame, only survival. But everything got worse for Adaise. She had lost her friends, and without them, school was meaningless. Every day she sat alone. Her father noticed she was unhappy. "Daughter, where are your friends?" he asked one day. Adaise couldn't lie. "Father, they dropped out of school." Her father was shocked. "Why?" Adaise bowed her head. "They're working in nightclubs." Her father stood up angrily. "You cut off contact with them, or you'll become like them too." But Adaise had started thinking. Maybe Kioma was right. Maybe school really was a waste of time. Maybe she could make easy money too. One night, her phone rang. It was Kioma. "Adaise, join me. Today I made 200,000 naira. In one night. Are you still bent over those boring books?" Adaise hesitated. Then she answered, "I'll come one more night." Just one night. But that one night turned into a second night. The second night into a third. Within a month, Adaze had also dropped out of school. Her father kicked her out of the house. "You're no longer my daughter," he shouted. Adaze left the house crying. There was no turning back now. 3 months later, the three girls had become Royale Club's most popular girls. They wore expensive dresses, stayed in luxury hotels, and traveled in BMW cars. But nobody saw the emptiness inside them. Kioma no longer called her mother. While Victoria worked at the market every day, she worried about her daughter. But Kioma didn't answer the phone. The power money gave her was stronger than the longing she felt for her mother. Ngozi had started sending money to her family. Her brothers were happy. Nobody asked where it came from. All that mattered was the money. Adaze cried every night. Her father's face came to her mind. That proud, honest man. If he saw his daughter fall into such a path, his heart would break. But it was too late now. Adaze had entered that path, and there was no exit. One night, everything changed. Kioma was in the VIP room with a client. The man was drunk and aggressive. Kioma wanted to escape, but the man stopped her. Another girl's scream was heard. Security guards ran, but everything was too late. That night, a fight broke out at the club. Someone was stabbed. Police came. The club was shut down. The next day, newspapers made it a headline. Royale Club scandal, underage girls forced to work. Kioma, Ngozi, and Adaze were questioned by police. Their families were called. Mothers cried. Fathers got angry. When Kioma's mother, Victoria, came to see her daughter, she couldn't recognize her. The girl standing before her was no longer her innocent Kioma. Her eyes were dull, her soul broken. "Mother," Kioma said, crying, "I'm so sorry." Victoria took her daughter in her arms. I knew this would happen. When Adaze's father came, he didn't speak. He just looked at his daughter. The disappointment in his eyes was heavier than 1,000 words. Ngozi's family didn't come. Nobody cared about her. The court process began. Club owners were arrested, but the girls were also guilty. The laws were strict. Those under 18 couldn't work in nightclubs. Finally, the three girls were released. But they weren't free. They were now labeled. Everyone knew them as club girls. Kioma returned to her mother's house. Victoria forgave her daughter, but the neighbors didn't. Every time she went out on the street, she heard whispers. When she tried to sell fish at the market, customers looked at her. "Isn't that your daughter? The one who worked at the club?" Kioma was dying of shame. One night she talked to her mother. "Mother, I want to go back to school." Victoria shook her head. "It's too late, daughter." "Which school will accept you? Everyone knows you," Kioma cried. The glitter of that glamorous life had faded. All that remained was shame and regret. Adaze tried to talk to her father. But the man didn't forgive his daughter. "You're dead to me," he said. "Leave and never come back." Adaze left Lagos. She went to another city, changed her name, tried to run from her past. But the past always caught up with her. Ngozi was in the worst situation. She had no family, no past, no future. She started living on the streets. She begged in front of the clubs where she once danced. 5 years later, the three girls met again. Chioma was still selling fish at the market with her mother. But there was no hope now. The dream of becoming a doctor had died. The life she once rejected was now her only option. Adayezi had become a teacher in a distant village. Nobody knew her past. But every day when she looked in the mirror, She remembered that night. She remembered that decision. Ngozi was no longer there. She had gotten sick. She died alone. Nobody came to her funeral. Chioma stood at Ngozi's funeral. Tears started flowing. "What have we done?" she whispered. Adaeze, standing beside her, shook her head. "We made a mistake. We said just one night, but that night stole our lives." As the two women left the cemetery, they looked back. On Ngozi's tombstone was only her name. Birth date, death date. There was no life story because she didn't live. She only survived. On her way home, Chioma looked at her mother. Victoria had aged. Her hands were still rough, still smelled of fish. But those hands had raised Chioma. Those hands were sacrifice, were love. "Mother," Chioma said, "I wish I had listened to you." Victoria touched her daughter's hand. "The past is in the past, daughter. But we can change the future." But the future? Did Chioma have a future? Number. Because everything had changed with one decision. Everything had ended with one night. This story isn't just a story. In Lagos, in Abuja, in Port Harcourt, thousands of young girls make the same mistake every day. Easy money, glamorous life, luxury is promised. But nobody tells them the price. Education is slow, requires patience, has difficulties. But it's permanent. Nightclub money is fast, easy, tempting. But it's temporary and kills the soul. Chioma, Adaeze, and Ngozi made a choice, and that choice changed their lives forever. This is the reality for thousands of young girls across Africa. One night, one decision, one mistake, and everything changes forever. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Hit the like button if you believe education is the only way forward. And subscribe for more powerful stories that teach us valuable life lessons. Remember, your future is too precious to gamble on one night. Stay in school. Stay focused. Stay strong. God bless you.